We are told that the internet's greatest achievement is connection. That the algorithm were engineered to find us friends, build the communities, and secure human connection, avoid loneliness. But what if the exact opposite is the truth? What if the code keeping you connected to one another is actually the most sophisticated machinery ever, built to isolate you, radicalize you, and quietly weaponize your mind fully? It's 2:15 a.m. You are staring at the glowing screen in a dark room, scrolling through the digital world where everyone else seems to be winning around you. Everyone else is attractive, everyone else is loved, everyone else belongs, and in that quiet space, a heavy, suffocating realization hit that you are invisible. Let me harness with ourselves. This is not a crime, it's a painful everyday human reality. Millions of the young people carry this exact emptiness every single night in our hyper competitive, deeply isolated urban spaces. It is a profound vulnerability from a society that demands perfection but offers no community, no gatherings. But tonight, you are not actually alone in that dark room. Someone, or rather, something, is sitting there with you. It is measuring how many fractions of seconds your eyes linger on that couple's photo. It's calculating the exact depth of your sadness, and it is terrifying, eventually planning for your isolation that you can't even believe. We like to think that radicalization is a deliberate choice, open. We picture shady, dark web forums, figures in trench coats and heavy political manifestos. But that is a comforting lie from the bygone era. It allows us to look the dark truth and say that that could never be to me or to my child. That could never happen. But today, the world lone wolf, terrorist, recruiter to ideology. They are groomed by optimization of social media engines. These tech algorithms keep you hooked on your feet, don't care about morality, or they don't care about their national safety. They care about data retention and high audience. When a lonely mind feeds a machine hours of silence, desperate scrolling, the system does not try to heal the sadness in you. It monetizes that step by step, comment by comment, your post by post. It moves your young mind from pity to confusion to social grievances and finally to weaponized rage. It is a systematic process. Psychologists call stochastic grooming, and it turns ordinary computer into digital assembly lines for human monsters. They did not start out wanting to destroy the world. They just wanted the world to finally look at them. In the investigation, we are bypassing the generic news headlines to perform a deep psychological autopsy on the digital ghost inside our missions. We are pulling back the curtain, the gamified martyr, going straight into the hindered chat lobbies of mainstream video games where teenagers are handed real world combat frameworks under the guise of pixelated achievements. We will decode the aesthetic propaganda, the terrifying new trend where the extremists use lo-fi music, pastel graphics, and the soothing voiceovers to slip the extreme hate right past AI filters. But before we unlock these digital doors, I want to leave you with a difficult moral questions that we will answer by the end of this video. That is, if a broken system isolates a young mind and an unregulated algorithm weaponizes that isolation until they snap, who is the true architect of the legacy? The broken person who pulled the trigger, or the lines of the code that built them? Because my people, when a society makes an entire generation of young men feel completely invisible, the algorithm will gladly hand them a weapon to force them to look upon. We are taught that gaming achievements or a harmless celebration of skill. a digital high five from a piece of software engineered to reward hours of hard work and the dedication. But what if I told you that this exact same psychological rewards loop has been silently hijacked by the world's most dangerous ideological architects? Have you ever felt that the tiny addictive rush of a dopamine when a game tells you that you have unlocked a rare badge, or when you see your name climb a global leaderboard? It is an incredibly satisfying feeling, but inside the dark underbelly of the internet, lone wolves are not writing traditional dense political manifestos anymore. They are writing gaming guides. They have taken the precise mechanics of Twitch streams, Discord squads, competitive speedrunning, and systematically mapped them onto the real world tragedies. To understand how a regular kid slips into this pit, we have to look past our own disgust. Teenager who fails at everything in the real world. He struggles at school, has zero social status in his neighborhood, and feels like an absolute loser. When he steps outside of his door in the house, but when he logs into the console, the matters, the screen gives him clean rules, clean objectives, instant validation. The game tells him exactly how to win. This is the human context. We cannot ignore. A lonely mind does not look for hate. It looks for competence. It looks for a place where it does not feel like a failure. And that is exactly where the trap is set. Because the moment a vulnerable kid connects his entire self worth to a digital scoreboard, his perception of reality begins to distort. Counter-terrorism analysis have exposed a deeply disturbing structural shift in how attacks are planned on online today. Modern extremist forums don't sit around debating complex political philosophy or theology anymore. They talk about the meta strategy. What is that? Past real world tragedies are cataloged, archived, analyzed exactly like a video game levels. Threads are created to break down past incidents by tactical efficiency, weapon loadouts, and geographical choke points, where users literally leave comments giving the technical feedback on how a future attacker can optimize their run to score higher on the digitized crowdsourced leaderboard of human lives. They discuss real human beings as NPCs, non-playable characters, and classify the horror as a mere stimulation. This completely just strips away the catastrophic moral weight away, bypassing the brain's natural aversion to violence by turning the horrific atrocity into a competitive sport. By just framing mass violence as an achievement hunt, the system successfully lowers the psychological barrier to enter for an isolated kid. It fundamentally changes what the internal narrative from a horrific crime to gamified challenge. In his own mind, that teenager is not a cold-blooded murderer anymore. He is just a player trying to beat the high score of the person who came before him. Which brings us back to the chilling moral dilemma back again we must confront. That is, if our digital platforms are intentionally engineered to make the young brains addicted to arbitrary status metrics and the leaderboard, can we really be surprised when a broken mind applies those exact same rules to the real world? My people, when a system turns human tragedy into a competitive speedrun, we are not just dealing with political extremists anymore. We are dealing with gamified madness that treats our reality as a sandbox game where human lives are stripped of their humanity, and the only thing that commands respect is the scoreboard, only scoreboard. We are told that the social media and the modern dating apps were engineered to democratize a romance to ensure that no matter what, who you are, love, validation, and human connection are just a single swipe away from you. But what if I told you that these exact same platforms have become the single most efficient isolation chambers ever created? What if the software built to connect us is actually tracking your romantic failures and using them as a psychological entry point for the extremism? Have you ever scrolled through a dating app for an hour only to get zero matches and felt that quiet burning sitting of rejection? It is an everyday agonizing reality for millions of young men in our hyper competitive modern cities. It's the feeling of being socially discarded, looking at the world that seems to be partying without you. You being single, let's pause and look at this with genuine human context, because it's just easy to judge from the outside. A healthy, supported mind handles this grief. It steps outside, goes to the gym or talks to a friend or keep itself busy with its hobby. But what happens when a young man has no safety net? What happens when he lives isolated in a crowded urban center where he feels completely invisible, working a dead end job with no real world connection, community to lean on? His sadness is not a political stance, it's a raw human pain. The pain, but while human beings look away from that one, a predatory algorithm sees that romantic rejection as an open, unmonitored backdoor into his psyche. It takes the initial innocent seed of loneliness and gently, mathematically guides it down highly structured pipeline of radicalization, where behavioral scientists tracking online behavioral data have mapped this exact trajectory. It is entirely data driven and it is horrifyingly fast too. When a user begins to fixate on loneliness contents over and over again, the recommended engine does not offer relationship advice or mental health resources for healing. It feeds them grievances. Why? Because anger generates three times more watch time than sadness. The system systematically introduces them to online spaces that tell them that their rejection is not a personal hurdle or a temporary phrase, it's a rigged systematic conspiracy against them. In less than 30 days of passive scrolling, a user can be algorithmically migrated from innocent self-pity into a toxic digital ecosystem that achieves villainizing the society. The forum sees the community, it becomes a psychological asylum. Whether their anger is constantly validated, fed, and gently directed towards a particular target. They did not start out wanting to change the world through violence. They just wanted the world to finally notice that they existed. You know, the algorithm builds are invisible, unyielding wall between the lonely individual and the rest of the humanity, where it slowly convinces them that because the world ignores them, they have a right to hate it, which leads us to staring directly at the massive, uncomfortable ethical crossroad. If our digital economy is designed to maximize the corporate profit by deliberately amplifying the human isolation, and can we truly blame only the broken individual who fall into that particular trap, or we must just hold the architects of the mission accountable? My people, the algorithm didn't plant the rage in that lonely room. It just built the perfect hyper optimized greenhouse where that rage could be watered, cultivated, grown into a mass weapon. We're taught that the internet propaganda will be loud, aggressive, ugly, that the hate speech is easy to spot. because it arrives screaming in the capital letters, wrapped in angry political symbols or the mass crowd. But what if I told you that the most effective radicalization happening right now does not look angry at all? What if it looks like a peaceful morning routine? Sounds like your favorite lo-fi playlist, feels completely safe for you. Think about the content you watch to calm down yourself after a stressful day. You look for a pastel graphics, minimalist room tours, or soothing aesthetic voiceover explaining wellness trips. It feels like a digital sanctuary. It feels completely harmless. But modern extremists have realized a critical flaw in security. Loud, angry, shouting videos instantly flagged and banned by the AI content moderation system. So they just completely changed their strategy. They wrapped their poison in a beautiful filter, creating a deeply manipulative phenomenon known as aesthetic propaganda. That is, to understand why our brains are completely defenseless against this, we have to look at the human context of how we consume media in today's world. We're completely overwhelmed by the chaotic, loud, terrifying news cycle. Young people are exhausted by the constant yelling on the television shows and the internet in day to day life. Naturally, the human brain craves order, beauty, and peace. When a teenager scroll past a chaotic political debate and lands on a stunning, softly lit video about returning to simpler, older days or protecting traditional harmony. Their psychological defense instantly drops. They are not looking for a political movement, they are looking for an escape from a messy world. They are looking for an aesthetic to belong to, and that is precisely where the subversion happens. When you lower your guard because the video looks beautiful, natural, normal, you inadvertently open the gates to your subconscious mind, where intelligence agencies and digital forensic teams have exposed a highly sophisticated, coordinated networks, creating what is called as soft core radical content. They are intentionally hijacking the exact visual language of our Instagram lifestyle influencers and Pinterest boards to mask the extreme propaganda. A video might look like a peaceful, cinematic, natural vlog with a calm, gentle voiceover discussing the beauty of protecting what is pure or honoring our sacred heritage. To a human viewer, it feels like inspiring psychology. To standard AI moderation algorithms, it looks like a harmless lifestyle and a travel content. Letting it just slide straight past the community guideline, filters, and directly onto the feeds of unsuspecting teenagers. But beneath that beautiful pastel layer is a deeply sinister coded message of an extreme xenophobia, exclusion, radical division, where the pastel colors vanishes completely, replaced by a stark high contrast black and white frame of a phone screen glowing in a dark room. The lo-fi music is entirely gone, replaced by a low hollow echoic metallic drone that demands absolute focus on that one alone. The most dangerous poison in the human history has never tasted bitter. It always tastes incredibly sweet, where there will be no suspicion by systematically desensitizing the viewer through the flawless graphic design and beautiful visuals. The ideology seeps directly into the young person's mind subconsciously without even triggering their critical thinking defenses. They don't realize that they are being slowly radicalized because nobody is yelling at them. Nobody is taunting. They think that they are just joining a lifestyle aesthetic, which brings us to a terrifying moral dilemma for our digital age. When the visual language of peace and wellness is weaponized to sell the philosophy of destruction, how do you protect a generation from an enemy they can't even see? My people, we are letting our children invite predators straight into their deepest corners of their minds, not because they are weak, but simply because the predator knows how to edit a beautiful video. We are told that the social media is the public square, a place for open disclosure and the exchange of ideas. We believe that we are in the control of our own opinion and that online rage is just a harmless byproduct of free speech. Individual right. What if I told you that the anger is no longer a human emotion on the internet? It is a currency. What if the people shouting the loudest or not actually looking to debate, but or instead playing a dangerous calculated game of statistical probability? Have you ever noticed how the most furious, volatile voices on your feed are always the one the algorithm boosts the hardest? We live in the brutal attention economy where outrage equals cash. If the creator sounds furious, the platform algorithm rewards them with millions of views. But the online terror leaders have discovered a dark mathematical secret behind this outrage mission. They no longer need to recruit a secret army or send a single private message to an operative. They just need to broadcast enough high emotion hate to the mass audience and let the mathematics of the human mind do the rest while they rest. To understand why this is so effective, we have to recognize the vulnerability of our own minds. We all feel helpless when the world around us changes too fast. We all want someone to blame for the instability in our own lives. When we hear a voice on our own screen screaming the things we are secretly afraid to say out loud, our brains naturally synchronize with that anger. And then it's just a deeply human need to feel like a part of struggle, but this desire to belong is exactly what is being weaponized. The sarcastic tiger, the trigger, it is a bad person. It relies on being a human one on one who is tired, one who is finally after hours of digital exhaustion stimulation ready to stop listening and start acting. Psychologists to call this stochastic terrorism. It is the use of mass media to provoke random acts of ideologically motivated violence that are statistically predictable yet individually impossible to track or prevent. A radical influencer broadcasts a message stating that a specific group is destroying our way of life and that someone needs to stop them. They don't pick a date, they don't pick a specific person, they just buy the weapon. But they know that the mathematically, if that message reaches 5 million people, the law of large numbers dictate that one psychologically unstable, deeply isolated lone wolf will eventually snap. They are not targeting a specific person. They are targeting a probability. They are playing the number game with the human lives. The influencer gets to stand in front of the press later, perfectly composed, say, I never told anyone to commit a crime. And legally, they are right. They did not pull the trigger. They just built the bomb out of words, placed it on the public feed, and waited for a broken mind to detonate it. Which brings us to the final haunting question for this chapter. When words are used as a statistical trigger for violence, where does the blame truly lie? Is it what the broken kid who committed the act, or is it with the wealthy calculator creator who knew exactly how much profit they would make from that content broadcasting the exact rage that pushed him over the edge? We believe that violence is an impulsive, chaotic act of madness. That a lone wolf is someone who has lost all control. We tell ourselves that these attacks are spontaneous eruptions of pure evil that have no logic, no strategy, or no audience. But what if I tell you that the attacker is the only one in not in the room who is actually in control? What if the attack is the only thing he has managed to control? Consider the final moments before an incident occurs today. The lone wolf is not just checking his equipment, he is checking his signal strength. He is setting up a scheduled live stream link, formatting a digital manifesto, which clean professional layouts and prepping anonymous post to post that in the forum. The second he goes live, they have understood the most terrifying reality of the digital age. The violence itself is just a teaser. The real goal is the coverage that follows. They treat their own atrocity like high budget content release. Then, to understand why this is so effective, we just have to stop blaming them and look at us. We are society obsessed with fame, with relevance, with being seen. We have all felt that small nagging desire to matter, to leave some kind of mark on the world that feels vast and indifferent. For a lonely, forgotten teenager in the dark bedroom, the internet is not just a tool. It's the only stage he has ever known where he realizes that society ignores the quiet and rewards the loud. He makes a fatal calculation. He is not choosing the distraction because he loves death. He is choosing it because it is the only way to finally break through the digital noise and make the world look at him, look at me, right? Data from media monitoring groups shows a horrifying rhythmic pattern. Every single major lone wolf incident triggers an immediate massive spike in the search volume for the perpetrator's digital footprint. The internet does not just report the news, it archives it. It preserves their manifesto, mirrors their streams, and obsessively analyzes their history by turning the attacker into a trending topic. The global network creates a permanent digital memorial for the next wave of isolated kids. The perpetrator undergoes a dark, systematic transformation. They transition from an invisible, lonely teenager into a permanent legendary figure in the dark spaces of the web. The ultimate reward for the mind obsessed with relevance. Look at me, I exist. They are not just looking for destruction anymore. They are looking for subscribers. They are trading the real blood for digital immortality. And every time we click on their manifestos, share their names, and trend their faces across our timelines, we are not just reporting the news. We are funding their marketing campaign. We are finishing the work their algorithm started. My people, the ghost in our mission is feeding in on our isolation, turning our loneliest children into the weapons, and using our curiosity to spread the infection to the next dark bedroom. The algorithm built the monster, but our attention is what keeps it alive. The next time you see a broken soul searching out for validation in the dark, remember what happens when the mission gets to them first. The world does not need another viral clip. It needs us to look at each other before the algorithm forces us to look at our tragedy. They are not just looking for a distraction anymore. They are looking for subscribers. They are trading real world blood for digital immortality. And every time we click on their manifestos, share their names, trend their faces across our timelines, we are not just reporting the news, we are funding their marketing campaign. We are finishing the work their algorithm started.